Hello and welcome to episode 73 of the Pos-cast with Rabbi Shmuel Posner, myself, Seth Hellman. And Rabbi, before we get started, I want this episode to be in memory of all those who lost their lives 23 years ago on 9/11. In particular, Michael Wittenstein, who was my cousin, who died in one of the towers. He worked for one of the law firms there. So 9/11 always an important day regardless, but especially important in my family in particular. So, Rabbi, let's get right to it.
Here we go. So, yeah, heavy day. So we have with us Jonathan B. Shapiro, Yonis and Binyamin. We'll get to him in a second. Meanwhile, he'll sit there quietly, which is not so easy for him. But before we started this episode, we're having some trouble here with I was having trouble logging on. And our erstwhile Seth, Shea Aaron, he's like giving you a whole speech about RAM.
You always got to learn new things, Rabbi. Just because you're an old man doesn't mean you can't keep learning.
So all I'm thinking about is a ram is like an ayil. It's like the animal that Abraham sacrificed. That's a ram. And so, because I couldn't open it. He says if you close some of the tabs that you have on your computer, then it'll open. So I close a whole bunch of stuff, which I leave it open because I think I'm going to look at it one day. Some stuff has been up there like for 3 weeks, but every time I see it, no, I have to look at it. Anyway, so now it's gone. And so then, and I'm like sitting and thinking like all that stuff I just closed, and I have to open it up again later. I have to remember where it is. And he starts giving me a whole drash about RAM. There's only a certain amount of RAM. And if you fill up the RAM, you empty the RAM. And all I think about is Abraham bringing a ram as a korban. And I just had in a conversation with an alum's husband, whatever. I won't get into that whole story. But he's talking about AI. And he goes, how come I chatting for half an hour about how AI is going to take over the world? We may all die, we may this, we may that. And then if we can take a person's emotions and their thoughts and transplant it into a robot, will that be a person, and his great-grandchildren will be able to know what he thinks about things in the world? And I'm like, oh, yeah. So I listened for 15 minutes. You only hocked me for like 3 minutes. And I said to him, yeah, that's all great and fine, but there's no neshama. The neshama is the core of the person. And so it was good. So even though he hocked me about AI, I was able to hock him about neshama. That was a win for us.
AI is also inherently limited by the people who program it. Like until someone figures out how to make it learn by itself, right? It's at the end of the day, it's limited by our own knowledge. So it's and people are stupid.
Generally speaking, but that wasn't nice. But I think the point is that if, like he's saying, if you take everything he's ever said, everything he ever thought, and somehow like put the program in together, you get some idea of how we would think. And I don't really care about that stuff. I just think the whole idea of like, and I try to explain this to him. He's not so observant, that things that don't change are like Torah mitzvahs, neshama of a Jew. Hashem doesn't change. And everything else around it swirls around it. Like Shabbos stays permanent. We keep Shabbos. So so now our lights go on and off electronically. We preset it before Shabbos. That's fine. But the essence of Shabbos stays the same. And then we just adapt to all these things around it. So this idea, what's going to happen with AI? It's all going to be good. Hashem will help. Don't worry about it. I think that's a general. I think only a person or only people who are Shomer Torah and mitzvahs are able to have that center core that's healthy and strong, that allows everything to blow around it, but it doesn't disturb it. And otherwise it gets disturbed. And the same, you talk about 9/11. 9/11, same thing also. Like, where were you on 9/11? You're a baby.
Yeah, I wasn't alive. Well, I was alive, but like barely.
Yeah. So I was talking to who was I talking to? Avram Yitzchak. Or Mendy. And he was saying that I had that his birthday is around. Oh, I know I was talking to him because we were talking about commemorating October 7th. The question is, should we commemorate October 7th? Some would say yes, some would say absolutely not. October 7th is a Goyish date. It has nothing to do with Judaism. When did the tragedy happen last year? Like talking about Rabbi and Seth, never happened again, was Shmini Atzeres. And the same thing also, 9/11. What's 9/11? It's a Goyish date. When did 9/11 actually happen? The 24th day of Elul.
Oh, look at you.
I said, oh, you remember? I said, you think anybody remembers that? Some people do. Obviously, the families are affected, but the general public knows that it was 24th of Elul. We all remember it's during Slichas, because a lot of people got saved because davening is longer. Even the Ashkenazim say Slichas. It was the week before Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, and that's why the idiots were saying, which is always so wonderful, how everything Kedusha gets twisted in the world of unholiness. The Jews plotted it because so many Jews came late to work that day. No, they came late to work because they were saying Slichas in the morning. And so davening took longer. Okay, separate issue. But who remembers exactly the date? Okay, so so it's Chav Dalet Elul. That's really the date we should commemorate it. Now, there's nothing wrong with so October 7th, people relate to it. Have a program that encourages Jews to do mitzvahs, to do, or all people to do good deeds. Nothing wrong with it. It's not like you're not going to say Kaddish then. Yortzai, you say Kaddish on Yortzai. Same thing, Shmini Atzeres. We are going to have to make some kind of remembrance of it, not to be sad and depressed, obviously, because the Shmini Atzeres. Added joy, but we'll talk about that when we get closer to that. But 9/11, trying to make 9/11. So a lot of campuses will have like a mitzvah day, take a mitzvah in honor. But now kids on college don't even know. It's like to them 9/11 is the same as World War II or Vietnam.
I mean, at this point, I think
2001.
Last year's graduating class was the last college graduating class where everyone, or whether anyone was alive when it happened. This year's graduating class is the first one where everyone was born after.
Right. Yeah.
So no one. Well, I guess there could be like people who repeated grades, but people who are in the normal academic year would have been born 2002 and 2003.
So it's old history. It's old history. Anyway, that's that. I don't even know what we're talking about that. Okay, let's move on. So let's put on our first photo here. And I was talking to them about how when the core is strong, everything swirls around it. So there's a tragedy, we're focused. Something else happened, we're focused. Okay, and we don't get swayed because we have our Shabbos, we have Torah mitzvahs, and only a Jew who has Torah mitzvahs has a connection to Hashem, a personal connection to Hashem. Only has a personal connection to Hashem can allow the changes in environment and the world not disturb them from who they are. This picture was sent to me by my brother-in-law who lives in Westlake, California. And this, judging at the age of what these kids look like, it must be his teen group. And they were having a discussion about naming, how do like a life cycle course, giving names to children. So this episode, now it's episode 55.
I was going to say,
now,
this is months ago, because you can tell from my background that I'm still in Detroit.
That's right. The shelves are back there, correct. And I look so much younger. So I can, and I just said it's episode 55, and you would think, oh wow, I know all the episodes by heart. Not only do I not know the episodes by heart, I don't even remember exactly what we talked every week, because whatever, it's out there. So I actually looked it up. It was episode 55. And that was my nephew, who's talking about how he named his son Matan Menachem.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that, yeah.
Remember that? Where he was throwing the grenades out and he ended up dying there. And it was just a beautiful how I was intrigued why he named the kid after that soldier, and we had him on and he was discussing it. And so now my brother-in-law, I know how he remembers. I guess he must be a Pos-cast fan, because he remembered that he had spoken about it. He could have easily called our nephew and have him live, but no, he decided to just play the Pos-cast. Who knows? Maybe those young souls in that room are now going to be Pos-cast fans as well. Now that we have, we've publicized them. But my point is, this guy's hocking me about AI and when the world's going to come to an end. It's not going to come to an end. Who knows what's going to happen? And here we're using this thing. I'm talking to you 6 months ago, 5 months. No, it was 20 weeks ago. We're 72. This is 55. We're talking about the conversation, and then my brother picks it up, uses it to educate these kids in California. I think it's incredible. I think it's amazing. It's wonderful. I always tell all my colleagues, my fellow shluchim, you got to podcast. You got to do it. Just get online and say something that's worthwhile for people to hear. If one person hears it, what have you done? You spent 5-10 minutes, half an hour talking. If 10 people hear it, and we have the great privilege, I say we, myself, and Chase Aaron gets all the credit actually, because he's one, it was his whole idea, and he's one who makes it happen. I just talk. But here we have this, that in California, they're playing an episode of the Pos-cast, and I am very, very excited about that. And I don't know if you can tell, but I'm very excited about that. Okay, now, moving on.
To me, it's funny because clearly we have, we've somehow reached a stage where we have people who listen who know the episodes better than we do. Right? I feel like that's something that happens with like actors and their TV shows, right? Where the fans know way more about the thing that the actor was in than the actor themselves actually knows. And now we're at a spot where we have people who are like, "Oh, I remember when they talked about this." I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I remember his face, but I had to wait for you to tell me exactly what we talked about before I could remember us talking about it."
Yeah. All right. So that's that. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. Moving on in the world of technology, this is another one of these things out of nowhere. We have picture number 2 for today's Pos-cast, number 72. 73. Now this is Newbury Street. Coming up, Newbury Street. So now, and we have now, we're going to call him Jonathan, because Jonathan's English name, he likes the Hebrew name Jonathan. So I told him this thing, let's do pot, put on tefillin. This goes back, I don't know, probably the 60s or 70s. And I just remembered the thing, and he said, we should make some better advertisements for the table. I said, fine, put on tefillin pot. So he did this. He also did another one, LSD, Let's Start Davening. We don't have a picture of that one. But so this is now, he took, it was a selfie you took, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it was a selfie, and you actually, I looked, you were, and somehow he posted it, and while we're at the table, like half an hour later, whatever, 15 minutes later, he shows me some post that some guy who has a WhatsApp and puts it on his status that, I don't know, he must have a lot of people that watch his status or something. So he shows me, it's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. That's great. Then I get who's the next one that showed it to me? Oh, Rabbi Yossi Gordon, who was, quote unquote, the vice president or whatever of Chabad on campus, basically means that he raises the funds. God bless his soul for an amazing job that he does, and supports a lot of the campus projects that happen across, all the campus, all the Chabad houses on campus are able to participate in these programs due to his running, organizing it and raising the funds and having a whole team of people that work in New York and other places organizing national programs. So he sends me this message, like that he had seen this. It was a nice message, he said, but it's about me, so I'm not going to tell you what he said. And that was that. Then Chani says to me, because there's a WhatsApp group that we have with her family, her brothers and sister. Just go check the family chat, because I have it in archive, because they post a lot, and I can't deal with WhatsApp that post a lot, so I check it periodically. Just check it. So I look there, and her older sister lives in Muncie. She says, she has this whole thing like, oh wow, that's so amazing, and I'm related to him. Because the guy who posted it, put the caption was, dozens of college students are streaming down this street in downtown Boston. Like, whatever, it's not exactly college students, they're not streaming, but whatever. It was a nice caption, And she's like, oh, I wish I'm related to him. Maybe I can have part of the merit of the mitzvahs that he's doing. Blah, 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 blah. And yeah, so then I said so my nephew saw it. He sent it to his mother, and she posted it. And like, so here we are. And you see, I wasn't even posing for the picture. This is a non-posing Pos-cast picture because I was busy. I know what I was doing there. I think I was pointing out, getting something ready, or I don't know, whatever. He was saying Shema, and I was organizing whatever I was doing there. But that photo goes out now, and I was in shul the next day, and I was talking to Rabbi Zaklas. I just said to him, I was talking about one of the people that normally comes to him Shabbos morning. We met him at the table, Newbury Street. I said, oh, I put on tefillin with this guy. And as I'm talking, this other guy, who's just a regular guy at the Boston shul, starts talking to me and says, oh, are you there every day, every week? Do you do this in the winter when it's cold? So I explained to him it's only during the summertime they have the table there. And as I walked and I started talking to him about the people that come and how we had a conversation, and he was like amazed that we're doing this every Sunday. As I walked away, I said, 1 second, how did he know that I was talking to Rabbi Zakkas, and I figured he must have seen the picture as well, so that's how he knows about the whole thing. So here's a simple, honest, two simple Yidden on Newbury Street, putting on tefillin with people, boom, the photo gets out, somebody else copies it, boom, 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 and that's it. That's what Hashem made the technology for, not for any other narishkeit. You got to block that out and use it for what it's meant to be. And while we're at it, we're going to now pull up the next picture. Now, do you know who that is?
On the right?
Yes.
No, I have no idea who that is.
Okay, so I'll let Jonathan introduce him and tell you how he met him and what went on there.
Thank you, Rabbi. That is Huey Stonefish. He is
Talk a little louder, unless my sound is too low.
That's Huey Stonefish. He's a musical artist and comedian and producer and Emmy award-winning songwriter who lives in California. And he was in Boston, unfortunately, for his grandmother's funeral. And he was walking down Newbury Street on the way to his car to get on the plane to go back to California. He saw the tefillin stand about 1 minute after Rabbi Posner left. Rabbi Posner left me there to man the tefillin stand for the first time by myself. This guy comes right up to us. He says, I want to put on tefillin. My grandmother just passed away. I want to put on tefillin. I'm about to go back to California. So I was like so excited. It's my first solo guy. We immediately get tefillin on together and take a picture. He asks me a couple of questions about Chabad House. And then I handed him $1. I said, this is shliach mitzvah money. And he was like, what's that? So I explained it to him. So he then was like, oh, let's do this again. And he made a video. And he's like, oh, is it okay if I post you? And I was like, yeah, no problem. I have no idea. At that point, I had no idea that who he was or that he's famous at all. But he was a very, very kind soul living in California. And he got so excited about the shliach mitzvah money and about the tefillin. And it was just so nice to connect with him and just like share a moment together, while he was in Boston right after his grandmother's levaya.
Beautiful. Okay, so again, here's another example. Huey Stone, never heard of him. It wasn't like a celebrity thing. He just walked up to the table, a simple Jew. And I had left the table because we had our welcome barbecue on Sunday, and so I had to come and help out and get things ready. And I'm very happy that our good friend Jonathan Shapiro was able to take over the table and put on a tune with a bunch of people after I left as well, which is, we have to know every person is a soldier in the Rebbe's army. It's like, and he got training at the table for, I don't know, like 7-8 weeks. Boom, he did a great job. Now, one of the things that's especially exciting when we're doing Miftzayim on Newbury Street is when we get somebody who we ask somebody and somebody agrees to put on tefillin for the first time, which we had on Sunday. We had a record for us. We had 7 people that put on tefillin for the first time. 8. Oh, you see, I wasn't even counting. A bunch came after I left. And now that's amazing. It's amazing. And one kid came over. He didn't know what tefillin was. He was probably 20 or something. I don't know. I asked him, if he's Jewish and mother Jewish, the whole thing. And he said, I don't want to do it. And what I found was like this, that sometimes you just have to like young people, like just do it. What's the big deal? Take 2 minutes. And it does, 3 minutes. We say 3 minutes. We can do it in 3 minutes. But in actuality, nobody is in any rush to be anywhere in 3 minutes. So it stretches to 5 or 6 minutes. And he put on tefillin and explained to him what it's all about and what's in the tefillin. He put on the tefillin and he said to me, I told him, like, you have it on, say the Shema, and then think a little bit about who you are, about Judaism, whatever, 10 seconds. Then I said to him, how does it feel? And he says, this is really great. I really needed this today. And I didn't, and that was it. I didn't say anything else. But here he was so hesitant to do it once he got it on. And to me, it's like just like magic. It's like holy energy. The guy puts on tefillin and feels something. It makes a difference to him. Like us dudes, we put on tefillin every day. And, you put it on, and of course, you think what the tefillin is all about, binding your mind and your heart to Hashem. But to actually say, like, it made a difference in my life, it's incredible. Now, this idea of putting on tefillin with somebody for the first time, I'm going to teach you now a little piece of Gemara. It's in Rosh Hashanah, page 17. Now, this is talking about people going to purgatory, going to Gehenna. Not very exciting, but you got to hold on. And it quotes psukim from Yeshaya. Okay. And then the Gemara says there's two specific categories of very wicked people. One of them is called Paisha Yisrael Bigufan, which literally means rebels, sinners of Israel with their body. Then there's Paisha Umasaylim Gufan. And then they have another thing is rebels or sinners of the nations that sin with their body. And they both go to Gehenna, and they're punished there for 12 months. And after 12 months, their body is consumed, their soul is burned, and the wind scattered them. What kind of horrible stuff that happens to them. Okay. So now, the Gemara says, what does it mean, a sinner with their body? Read the Gemara to you. Paishi b'Yisrael b'gufan ma'nihu. What are they? Amarav. Karkafta delay monach tefillin, a head that did not wear tefillin. What does Rashi say? Nothing. Okay. Karkafta delay monach tefillin, a head that did not wear tefillin. Do you get that? Who is considered a Paisha Yisrael Begufam that the Gemara specifies? This is a special category that Yeshaya Hanavi, Isaiah the prophet, is talking about, gets punished in Gehenna for 12 months and then their body gets burned, the soul gets scattered, is a head that did not wear tefillin even once. So basically, the Rebbe says, you know what, when you have a Jew who puts on tefillin for the one time, you've raised them out of that category. So the Gemara has a special category of people whose head never had, of men who never wore tefillin. And one time wearing tefillin takes them out of that category. It's so unbelievably incredible. I mean, the excitement is very well warranted. It makes a lot of sense. For one time, and you get, we can't even imagine what that means. So that's just a very beautiful thing. And so, Jonathan, I'd like you to talk a little bit about yourself. Now that you've been my partner on Newbury Street we've known each other for a couple of years already, but just you seem to me to be very excited and very enthusiastic. And being on Newbury Street, everything's, it's fun, it's great. We usually get there about 11 o'clock and we leave at 5 o'clock. That's like 6 hours, and it's pretty much constant. And Baruch Hashem, the sun is out. We have our little canopy, so we're a little protected. But we're on the job there for 6 hours, 6.5 hours sometimes. It's pretty powerful. So give us a short background, a little bit of your connection to Yiddishkeit and your excitement in Mivtzayim.
I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts. My parents came to America in 1979 from the former Soviet Union. They were not so connected over there, other than that they knew that they were Jewish. My grandmother, for example, every Pesach would go to the local shul at like 2 o'clock in the morning with a bag of flour and wait there while they turned her flour into matzah. And that was at risk of death, of course. If she got caught, God forbid, they were just gonna, end it for her. My father, when he was in university in Moscow, he actually went to jail for dancing on Simchas Torah with an Israeli flag, because for him, like Israel, just like being Jewish by blood, like that's Judaism, because they weren't allowed to practice really. So thank God when they came to America, my parents met, they had me, which I'm obviously very thankful for. And they took the opportunity to send me to Jewish day school and public school, and I ended up graduating from a Jewish day school for high school. I went to UMass Amherst, where I joined a Jewish fraternity called AEPi. I lived in the Hillel house for a semester or two, and I spent a lot of time around Jews, but I actually wasn't so into the religious thing. I did not keep kosher. I did not keep Shabbos at all. I wasn't interested in any of that, because I also, like my parents, was Jewish. You couldn't tell me I wasn't Jewish. I had to do whatever I wanted. I could do whatever I wanted, but I'm Jewish. After college, I met a very, very special rabbi, Rabbi Peretz Goldstein, in a bar at a Jewish singles event, and he hawked my chinik until I came to his house for Shabbos, and I really enjoyed it. And as I started hanging out with him more and more and more, I started taking on more and more mitzvos. Of course, like 3 months later, I was fully keeping Shabbos already, and like a month after that, I had already thrown out all my dishes, started keeping kosher at home, out of home, and eventually, thank God, I found my way to Chabad, which changed my entire approach and really added a lot of light and a lot of fun to the whole experience. And I love going on Mitzvahim with Rabbi Posner and even on my own, just because I like the opportunity to connect with other Jews very similarly to how I connected with Rabbi Goldstein once upon a time. And just like Rabbi Posner shared, like when you have that moment with someone, you can see that they light up, and you leave like a pretty lasting impact. I made a lot of friends with people and spent Shabbosim even now. And like I've sent a couple people to yeshiva, whatever, all types of yeshivas. But I think that the most important thing was just connecting with those other Jews, because as we learned through Chassidus, like we're all part of the same bigger picture. So like when you're connecting with somebody else, you're actually connecting with like a deeper part of yourself. So like I learned a lot of lessons on Newbury Street, like apprenticing under Rabbi Posner, like when not to talk, when to talk, like how to identify a Jew. I used to say like, oh, that guy looks like a Jew. Rabbi Posner would say like, what does a Jew even look like? And like other times, like I would go for it, and Rabbi Posner would be like, he doesn't even look Jewish. Like I still don't really know, but there's something. And when you are you Jewish somebody, and you have that like deer in the headlights look, you know that they're Jewish. And then they always ask you like, how do you know? So I started saying like, hey, like we're related. Like you don't recognize your own family. Of course I knew that you were Jewish. And that usually like this, if they let their guard down, they'll come over, unless they're like an older Israeli man. Is that a good summary?
Beautiful, amazing. There's no question about it, and that reaching out to other Jews and helping with a mitzvah, and you just think about that Gemara that you put on film with a person one time. You always talk about a mitzvah changes the world. We know this. Every mitzvah changes the world. The Rebbe said, always quote the Rambam, view the world as equally balanced. One mitzvah tips the scale. But to have a Gemara that literally gives a category called a Pesha Yisrael, a rebel, a sinner of Israel, and to say it's a person who never put on tefillin, and you can save him from that category. aside from everything else, just practically speaking, what's it called? Cost something. What's the cost benefit value? Like, it takes you an hour to stand on the street meeting Jews, and you can do that for a Jew. Come on, that's like what great way of spending your Sundays. So yeah, if you want to get out there on any day of the week, get out there and help people do a mitzvah. You talk about 9/11. When we talk about people that we lost, we have to think their presence in this world is no longer here in the physical sense. So they can't do mitzvot. But we do a mitzvah in their honor, that's like, boom, that's the greatest thing that's the greatest benefit. Up in Shemayim, up in heaven, the soul saying, guys, you're down in this world, you can make a difference. It changes everything in all the realms of existence. So doing a mitzvah, helping another person do a mitzvah, that's where it's at. One of the alum who's very involved in Yiddishkeit and whatever, he's a good guy. He says, how come, I know in all the yeshivas they talk about Av Yisrael, but I see in Chabad and Lubavitch, like they live it more. And I thought about it. So I don't know any comparison between this people and that people, but I think what the Rebbe explained to us about the value of every single Jew. We know that Rebbe and Tanya talks about every single Jew as a chelik elokam mamash, an absolute part of Hashem. And in fact, this morning the Rebbe was giving a teaching about the daily Rambam, and it has to, if a sacrifice, you bring a sacrifice, and in the middle of bringing the sacrifice, the mizbeach, the altar, becomes disqualified because a stone is chipped or something. So then the sacrifice, you can't wait. It becomes, it loses its value. It can't be. It's not. Doesn't accomplish what it has to accomplish. Bring another sacrifice. But if the animal is alive, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't lose its sanctity. And so the Rebbe took that point that when something's alive, it never loses its sanctity. When you look at another Jew and you say, what is that Jew? You say, you can say that Jew is a dead Jew. Or sometimes Jews will say, come over to the table or something, and will ask me they're Jewish. And I'll say, I'm a bad Jew. And the Rebbe taught us, no. If you have that godly soul and it's alive in you, you're 100%. You're 100%. So how come you're not loving the person for their external stuff? You're loving the other Jew because of their soul that they have. And if you can help them express it, wow, amazing. So this is what we need to focus on this. Now that we're coming, we're in Elul, we're getting ready for Rosh Hashanah. We want to bring down a lot of bracha for the world, for ourselves, for all of the Jewish people, and for all of humanity. We meant 9/11, Chas v'shalom, another tragedy that should never happen. We got to increase more good and more light, more mitzvahs. Whoever's in Boston, Sunday, Newbury Street. We're going to change the world 1 year at a time, and don't wait till Sunday. Do it now. Do a mitzvah. Have another do a mitzvah. Boom. The scale will tip. Mashiach now.
Amen. And with that, thank you so much for listening to episode 73 of the Pos-cast. Rabbi Shmuel Posner. We will see you next week.